But philosophy just mean to have the realization level of knowledge of some segment, to be able to have intuition. If you refer to my DSW, the process itself cannot create pressure on you. If you think a bit logically, present cannot cause any pressure. Only future can cause pressure on present. Life is all about not making your past regretful, so that you have problems in your present, in the present that you are living right now with respect to past. Because the first way is not generally again celebrated and taught by our curriculums and by our courses. But if you learn this general ability, then you will be able to not just learn things by your own or for your own benefit, but it will be easy for you to take help from the surroundings. Hi there, welcome back to a video after so long. And in this video I'm going to do the thought update thing, but since it is after so long, I have wrote 10 points instead of just 5, and this is the clip that I'm going to use in all of those videos, because the redundancy avoidance, you know me enough. So okay, let us start with the actual video. Just a quick audio check to see how the voice is coming. I forgot my tripod microphone because I did not thought that I would be recording this today. If the voice is good enough, then I will record the video, or else I will just go home and regret for not bringing them. I guess the topic and the content is more important compared to how video looks. So let us just get started with the topic. Okay, starting with the first point. Philosophy is the purest form of being human. Hence all end up being one. I know, being Maneswar, I should not be saying this because intellect is the most powerful thing. But nah, philosophy is also some intellect thing. But it is like intellectual plus something that is not intellectual. So Maneswar is part of Madhusudan in some sense. So it does not really matter. But what is true is true. It makes a lot of sense logically, or just with respect to Maneswar, to understand is that philosophy is the purest form of being human, because human being is not just about intelligence, and the other part is dealt by philosophy. So and all end up being one because you can see with respect to the curriculums and degrees, as it has been said in some videos also, how degrees are designed. The end degree PhD stands for philosophy of doctorate. By philosophy, I just don't mean the life philosophy. I've seen that a lot of people confuse when I say philosophy, that the life philosophy like stoicism, how to live life, spirituality, some kind of thing. But philosophy just mean to have the realization level of knowledge of some segment, to be able to have intuition. If you refer to my DSW, then to have insights and intuition, that means philosophy. That means the wisdom part of that field. Wisdom is not just of life. You can have wisdom of physics, you can have wisdom of technology, to be able to have insights and intuition, as said by Jeffrey Hinton as well, to which I will link the video if possible.
Yeah, I think the challenge, of course, for most people, I'd say including myself, but I definitely hear the question from many students too, is that it's easy to work on something else than everybody else, but it's hard to make sure that something else is actually relevant. Because there's many other things out there that are not very relevant you could possibly spend time on.
Yeah, that involves having good intuitions.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Physics came prior to humans, so don't relate the wrong way. Not just with physics, with sciences, mathematics. I've seen a lot of people doing this, that they relate physics with humans and then understand the physical concept or the physics concept. But that is, again, conversion cost losses, the stupid human brain. It can cause a lot of problem, because physics is not supposed to weigh like humans. Humans are supposed to weigh with respect to physics. It's the opposite thing. It's not vice versa. Be clear with it. And if you will understand physics with respect to examples of the human ways and using analogies and examples of human ways, then you will just be able to understand physics to a certain limit or to a certain amount that won't actually give you the whole picture or the realization level of knowledge that might make you PhD or philosophy of doctorate of physics. So don't relate the wrong way. If you want to understand life, you can use physics. That is what I do. My point being, just don't go the other way with respect to taking examples and relating things. You cannot relate the bigger picture from the smaller picture. You can only extract the smaller picture from the bigger picture. There's a set of logics of this as well. If A is part of B and X is part of A, then X is also part of B. But that does not mean that B is part of X. That way, I don't know how to put it now, but I hope you understand my logic. Next point. Anything done under pressure can't lead to love of it. Pressure of learning can lead to happiness of knowledge. I know I'm talking a lot of Madhusudan right now. Talking about love, knowledge and philosophy, all that stuff. But as I said, in the end, all logics and intellectual endeavors end up in philosophy in some other way, because the upper segment of logics is wisdom and is philosophy, and in some kind of love. Like, what is passion? Love. If you love physics enough, then only you can properly leave all of your humanly stuff to properly understand physics, just as physics, the other 2 points that I mentioned. So if you're learning anything under pressure, and by pressure is generally of the phal, or the Madhusudan way of saying the outcome of the action. So that is the only thing that can create pressure on you. The process itself cannot create pressure on you. If you think a bit logically, present cannot cause any pressure. Only future can cause pressure on present. And when I say pressure here, I specifically also mean with respect to exams also. If you're trying to learn a concept because it is going to come in exams and just few days within exams, then you'll probably not be able to understand that thing with that level of depthness and not be able to perceive it or see it like the beautiful thing that that concept is. You'll just see it as a set of tools that you can use to gain marks and credits and probably scholarship. So don't do that. If you are in a situation that you have to learn something in pressure because you did not study for the whole semester, then after doing the exam, come back and see and try to study it again from a fresh point of view so that you can actually understand that thing and just don't memorize and all that thing. Next point. It does not matter what you are doing. One certain thing is you are training yourself. That is very common with respect to psychology and human evolution. One thing that you're always doing is training yourself. If you're doing good thing, if you're doing bad thing, if you're doing anything, one thing that you're doing is you're training yourself. And when I say training yourself is that you're conditioning your mind to work in a similar way. This is how a lot of mythological and superstitions work. Like if you think bad for other people, if you say bad for other people, the bad will happen with you because you are doing manifestation thing, I guess, or you're training yourself for this bad situations and bad kind of segments. So in the end, it does not matter what you are doing, just try to have a lot of positivity in the thing that you're doing, because even if you're doing it for others, you're training yourself. Even if you're doing it for no actual output, then also you're training yourself. Just keep this in your mind all the time that you are training yourself. With respect to evolutionary purposes, if you see the biggest picture possible of a quiet race, I know it is very insignificant, but a lot of small insignificant things make some significant. Next point, life is conversion of uncertain future to certain past using function of present actions. Aim is to not make regretful past. I know I've been talking a lot of Madhusudan right now, but because I came to these realizations after doing a lot of intellectual things, these might have a lot of Madhusudan things as well, but I want to point out the significance of my Maneswar or intellectual things in these kind of philosophical things. Life has been debated a lot. What is life? What is meaning of life? Blah, 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 blah. But from a logical point of view, from a functional point of view, life is all about not making your past regretful so that you have problems in the present that you are living right now with respect to past. A loss function. Past is a loss function in which you have to do something that you don't regret in future. That's all what I do as well. Like if you are doing something and you are trying to make a decision whether doing that would be good or not, then the thing that you can keep in mind is that would you be regretful of the action in future with respect to the amount of knowledge that you have in present. You might gain some knowledge in future that might make it regretful or that might not make it regretful, but in the present, the set of knowledge that you have in present, would it make the current actions of you regretful in future? And except this, there is no specific rule or things or ethics, anything that you are required to follow with respect to Madhusudan as well. Because if you follow this thing and if you like keeping track of other points of training yourself and conditioning and philosophy, that if you're keeping in relate with the other points as well of past, you'll not by design do anything non-ethical and all. Logic based on ethics is logic, but it is ethical logic. Not just with respect to being ethical for other people or the humanity in general, but for yourself, you will be more kinder and all. Next point, first use science for logic and then try logic for science. As a second point I wrote, physics came prior to human, this thing also. First, use science for logic. First understand logic, then use logic for understanding. I guess I talked about this thing in other video of mine as well. But it is so obvious that I need to talk about it again and again, because people generally tend to do the other way. Because the first way is not generally again celebrated and taught by our curriculums and by our courses. And as our human mind is designed and the society is designed in general, you don't do something for which you don't get apparent results and the instant results. So if you're training yourself for understanding logic first, the science of logic, then there is no actual thing that you can get out of it except for the understanding that you'll gain. You'll not get marks of it because there is no exam to actually test that thing. But if you'll do that, you'll get enough of a sense of logic that you can use that logic in all the ways that you want. Science, life, physics, anywhere. So my point being in the end, first learn how to use logic, or first understand logic, then use logic to understand. The basic quotation thing. Next point, learn how to compress and extract information to and from knowledge. Ultimate form of learning. So I thought about learning, understanding, human knowledge, all of these things very objectively for once, because I had some similar kind of topic for my friend. And after thinking about a lot, the logical segment of all of those thinking was basically knowledge and understanding with respect to the humanistic society and the A world means being able to compress and extract knowledge as quickly as possible. And by compression and extraction, basically I means you learn 10 things, you learn a whole book, and then you compress it in such a form, like getting the essence of that topic, compressing it in a such form that you can store it in your mind and extract a lot of things based on from one thing. It's like having a seed value for a random function generator, if you know a bit of Myspy and how randomness works in computer. So basically like getting that specific seed or getting that specific final compressed value from which you can extract all set of knowledge, building upon or segmenting or doing some mind mapping hocus pocus. But that is the whole point of understanding a human brain of working and compressing and all. This is especially helpful with respect to self-help books because they are actually opposite of this. As even Mark mentioned, I heard him say in a video that a lot of self-help books are just basic 2-3 lines of philosophy extracted and expanded in the wildest possible with all set of examples.
Take Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Maybe my favorite self-help book of all time. If you're being objective, it doesn't really say anything new. The entire book can basically be boiled down to the famous Nietzsche quote, "A man who has a why can bear almost any how." Nietzsche's quip is similarly just a regurgitation of Aristotle's beliefs around eudaimonia, that happiness can only be achieved when we're serving some higher purpose. That's an idea that goes back 2,500 years and is one of the foundational ideas of the Nicomachean Ethics, a book that is so boring, about as fun as eating a plate of glass.
If you see in our mythology also, then Ashtavakra Gita is actually the Gita that you need. But you also need a Bhagavad Gita because a lot of people are not that good with being able to properly understand Ashtavakra Gita, not properly trained enough.
Now the Ashtavakra Gita, I would not advise people to read until they have gone through the whole process of meditation and understanding and so on, because if you suddenly read only the Ashtavakra Gita, you stop all meditation and you might become atheist. The great sage Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to teach the Ashtavakra Gita only to one person, Swami Vivekananda.
So, in the end, the more you learn or train yourself, again training is everywhere, the more you learn and train yourself to be able to compress and extract, both is important. You are also required to be able to extract that knowledge. It does not mean you just compress and keep it in your brain. That would be a problem when it comes to expression or using that knowledge. You just don't need to learn, you also need to use those learnings. So learning basically means compressing that knowledge, and using that learning is being able to extract that knowledge. So basically make a good WinRAR for your system. And the better WinRAR you make, the better compression algorithm you have, the more amount of knowledge you can learn. You can also see the parallels of this in a lot of lectures or courses that you can find online, or in some large universities also. This is one of the fundamental things that makes a good university, a good professor. They have such a compressed form of knowledge that they can extract in a such a way that a lot of students can understand while maintaining the density of the knowledge. Like when you compress something, you basically increase the density of that thing. These all are just similar terms. So when classes are dense, like for example the classes that I attend here compared to India, the classes here are very dense because they are way too compressed compared to how classes are in India. But at the same time they are compressed, but they are structured in a way, or the professor knows the concept in such a way, I guess he has felt the essence of it, that you can properly extract it if you properly put your own time in that. And in the process of extraction and conversion, only the sense of that concept develops. Like that is what you can call training of a model with respect to neural networks if you want to learn. But the whole point of being able to do this compression and extraction is so that even if you can get something in compressed form, that is more dense form, like in a class, then you are able to properly extract it. It does not mean that if you are getting something in too dense form, you just ignore it because it is too dense for you. That is what people sometimes call too hard for me. But if you learn this general ability of being able to compress and extract things in the best possible form, then you will be able to not just learn things by your own or for your own benefit, but it will be easy for you to take help from the surrounding and learn from all available resources as well. Yeah, just a common thing. Don't apply advanced solution to primitive problems, go down to the problem level. Our mind is designed in a way to complicate things so that because we think complicated things would give us better and more reliable results, and our mind likes reliability and higher probability of things. Mind fallacies, a lot of them are there. Human body, human self cannot do anything much of it. So just try to avoid this in this way. A lot of human fallacies that you might see, mind fallacies, they converge to this point only. We applying advanced solution to primitive things, or sometimes we opposite as well. But the opposite or the vice versa is very rarely that we apply primitive solution to advanced thing. So just try to avoid this mind problem. Next point, fear is the cause of running away from detailed solutions to specific answers. A lot other concept of being human and the way of human functionality is whenever we run towards a specific answers is because we are afraid that we might get lost in the process, or we want solutions way too bad. It might be both enchantments or fear, like desire or fear, both can be there. But fear is being more primary to humans with respect to evolutions. So just learn to control your fear while being Maneswar. I know these are not the segments of Maneswar because it is of the student, but there are a lot of personas. Coming to the next point, the last point. Effortlessly seeing and inferring between the line meanings and minute chiral intricacies is probably the best way to evaluate perceptual knowledge. It is a very deep and strong point. I've written it in a enough explanatory way that you can understand it on your own. But how do you know that you're actually having perceptual knowledge of a thing? Like, what is the test for it? Because the humans haven't designed any test for it. You cannot, again, a piece of paper cannot decide whether you know a concept or not. A set of questions given by professor and you being able to answer them does not decide whether you know that question or that subject well enough. The best way to evaluate by your own self-introspection and stuff is obviously given. Are you able to see minute chiral intricacies of that concept? By that I mean the small things from which the concept flip, like very close by concept, but the fundamental difference that make this concept different from this concept. Are you able to see those specific points from which two concepts diverge? Or are you able to see those points from where two things diverge, basically the chiral thing? To be able to see this chirality or the intricacies of this thing is also put in other ways of being able to read between the lines. If you're reading A and C and D, are you able to figure out B? If you're reading A, B, C and D, are you able to figure out E and F? This is the only way to test it. There is no actual test designed by humans. I have read a lot of philosophers and I've been in this field because it's my field to design this kind of, and socially I've read all. There is nothing actually that is designed by humans that can do that. It cannot be even possible to design because every human have their own set of ways. Mortal computers. Just go and read about it. I don't want to talk about it.
People can't do that. If I learn a whole lot of stuff about quantum mechanics, and I want you to know all that stuff about quantum mechanics, it's a long, painful process of getting you to understand it. I can't just copy my weights into your brain because your brain isn't exactly the same as mine.
No, it's not.
It's younger.
So, yeah, just do the introspection by your own, and these are the basic tests that you can take on yourself to be able to understand that are you having perceptual knowledge of a concept or not, or are you just fooling yourself. So, yeah, that's all for this video, and I'm extremely sorry for the bad words, and bye. I have to go now. I'm in rush. Have a good day. Mathematics in your mind, very implicit. समझ आता तो अच्छा होता।